little review for your quiz. You're obviously going to have a calculator. Alright, so the first one, you should be tired of it by now. So it's asking you which one shows a proportional relationship. So let's do the easy ones first. Let's look at the graphs. The graph, if it's a proportional relationship, it goes through the origin, right? And it's a straight line. This is proportional, so we're going to write that this is proportional. This is not, obviously, it does go through the origin, but as you can tell, it curves. It's not a straight line, so not proportional. So on your quiz, they're going to ask, you can have more than one answer for this question. This one's definitely not proportional because the y-intercept is a little bit higher. It's not 0, 0. It doesn't go through the origin, right? How can we explain this? So this is a nice question for me to ask. How come he bought 0 tickets and he's already down 20 bucks? He's already spent 20 bucks, and we can say, hey, maybe he bought some food or he paid for parking, something else that he bought besides the tickets. Okay, so not proportional. All right, so as far as graphs goes, that's super easy. As far as table goes, let's look for the constant proportionality, right? So for here, we're going to divide, so let me call this x, let's call this y. All right, the constant proportionality, we're going to divide, so k, our constant proportionality is 2 over 8, and k equals 2 over 8 divided is 1 over 4. So 8 times 1/4 is 2, that makes sense. Is 12 times 1/4 3? Is 1/4 of 12 3? Yes, it is. If you had 16 bucks and I took 1/4 of it, 1/4 of it, would it be 4? Yes, it would. So yes, yes, and yes. And then 20 times 1/4, is it 5? Yes, it is. So this is a proportional table. Here, we can tell right off the bat when x is 0, y is not 0. So again, if this was a graph, it wouldn't start at the origin, right? It wouldn't start like this. It would start somewhere over here, not the origin. So not proportional. So that's a very quick way of you finding out it's not proportional. And then obviously you can find the constant proportionality, pick an order pair, like for example, this one, 2 to 10. If you find the constant proportionality, we do 10 divided by 2, k equals 5. So this is 5. What's this? This one's times 4, and this one, I don't even know what that is. 22 divided by 6. 3.6666, 3 2/3. And you can see that it's different for these 3 order pairs and not proportional. This one, well, let's do k, 26 divided by 2, so this is times 13, check, times 13, check, times 13, check, times 13, 130, check, and it's 12 times 13, 146, no, it's 156, so here it fails, so not proportional. Very, 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 very careful. Okay. So that's question 1. Question 2, find the diameter given the circumference is 40 meters. Find the diameter given the circumference is 40 meters, 1814 inches. Oh, I don't know what that means. 1 second, please. Yeah, I need a second on this. Pause it. Just need to take a look. 7th grade. I have to change the question. Oh, okay. What is the circumference? The circle diameter. Find the diameter, and just find the diameter given that the circumference is 40 meters. Okay, so I see what I did. So we're going to take the 40 meters out. Right, and say and use 18.4 inches. So first one, we're gonna write. So let's label this circle, and here's the diameter, and I'm gonna put a question mark because that's what I need to find. The circumference, is 40 meters. So let's use our formula to find the circumference. We multiply pi to diameter times diameter. Circumference, I do know, it's 40. And then equals pi and times diameter. Diameter is what I want to find. So how do I get this equation to look like this? Diameter equals, so I have to get rid of the pi, inverse operation, right? Remember, when we solve equations, this is multiplication, so I'm going to divide by pi. And if I divide the right side by pi, I divide the left side by pi. So pi divided by pi is 1, and 1 times diameter is diameter. So on the other side, you can leave your answer like this. What's the diameter? 40 over pi. Or, right, most likely your multiple choice answers are going to be like this. Or, if you take the calculator and divide 40 divided by pi, you're going to get a numerical answer. It's going to 12.73 rounded. So you got two answers, 40 pi or 12.73. Okay, so that's equal to the diameter, right? But make sure that you know that you have both answers. It really depends on what they ask. So this one, again, here's the circumference. Sorry, here's the diameter. That's what you're trying to find. The circumference is given to us. It's 18.4 inches. So I'm going to take this guy out. So let's use the formula. Circumference equals pi times diameter. In this case, I'm given the circumference, so I can change c for the value that's given to us, 18.4, equals pi times d. So again, just like the previous problem, how do I make that line look like this? I need to get rid of pi. We're going to divide this side by pi and divide this side by pi. Pi divided by pi is 1. 1 times diameter is diameter, which is what I wanted, diameter all by itself. And you can leave your answer like this. So the answer is 18.4 pi, the lazy way. Or 18.4 divided by pi, and we're going to, not equals, approximate, right, because we're rounding, 5.86 whatever inches. Okay, so you got two answers. Please be aware that you have two possible answers. Okay, one is with pi, and the other one you actually change that and you divide by pi. Okay. Find the circumference of a circle if the radius is 12. Okay, so here's a circle, right? So you're near a garden outside. Well, actually it's 12 centimeter. A very small circle, and we just gonna write that radius is 12, and we want the circumference. Question mark, question mark. We have the radius, and if you're given the radius, you can also draw a diameter and say, hey, if I know the radius, the diameter is 24. The only reason I want you to do that is because now you have two choices. You can use this formula, 2 times pi times radius, or c equals pi times diameter. I'm going to do the first one. C equals 2 times pi times the radius, which is 12. And then c equals 2 times 12 is 24, and 24 pi. So that's your answer with pi. Or you can multiply, right? 24 times pi, and you're going to get 75.40 approx. The other one, in case you actually like to use diameter, you get c equals pi, and the diameter is 24, and you get c equals 24 pi, and then if you multiply that, you can say or 75.40. Alright, so I noticed that whichever formula you use, you end up with the same exact answer. Next one, find the circumference. Again, circumference, the distance around the circle, I don't know, but it's given you a diameter. Let me actually draw it better. Here's the center of the circle, from one edge to the other edge, going through the middle, that's the diameter. And the diameter is 5.3. C equals pi times diameter. The circumference is pi times 5.3. So you can leave your answer as 5.3 pi millimeters, right, the units. Or if they ask you to multiply these two, you go 5.3 times pi, enter, and you're going to get 16.65 millimeters. Okay, so you got two answers. One answer, you leave it with pi, you don't multiply it out, and the other one, you actually multiply it out. It depends on your multiple choice. Okay, but please, again, be aware that you get two different answers, right? Two answers in two different forms. Find the constant proportionality. Okay. So remember, one nice easy way is, how do I get this to become that? How do I get this to become that? And how do I get 5 to become that? We're going to multiply by the same number. It has to be by the same number if it's a proportional table, right? So times the same number. How do I find that number, right? Our constant proportionality, and then I'm going to draw on the table 1 here, right? Because that ordered pair is going to be a unit rate. So, well, k, that's x and y. We're going to do y over x. And k, let's pick a pair, and let's use this one right here, 2 and 4 pi. So I'm going to put 4 pi divided by 2. 4 pi divided by 2, if you just worry about the numbers here. 4 divided by 2 is 2. The pi stays there. So there's your answer, is 2 pi. Well, let's take this and put it over here. So let me erase this because let's see if it's true. So if I take 2 and multiply by 2 pi, do I get 4 pi? I do, because 2 times 2 is 4, and then times pi. If I take 3 and multiply by 2 pi, do I get 6 pi? Yeah. 3 times 2 is 6, and then the pi, so it's 6 pi. What if I take 5 and multiply by 2 pi? Do I get 10 pi? Yes, I do. So what would be the unit rate? 1 times 2 pi. Right, so here is my unit rate. What's my constant proportionality? 2 pi, because every other pair, right, every x value was multiplied by 2 pi times 2 pi times 2 pi. And that's our answer. This one, they have a graph, and they're asking you to find the constant proportionality. So, you know what? Take the ordered pairs that are given to you, and let's put it on the table. So let's take this guy here. When x is 0.5, remember, or even do that, in every coordinate, the x is your first, and the y is your second. So the x coordinate is 0.5, and the y coordinate is pi. Second coordinate, 2 and 4 pi, so let's write 2 and 4 pi. Third coordinate, 3 and 6 pi. Okay, so now let's find the constant proportionality. To find the constant proportionality, what do? K equals y over x. So pick a value, pick either the first one, the second, pick an ordered pair. So I'm going to take this guy here. I'm going to use this guy. And if I do that, I actually get the same thing as the one before. 4 pi over 2. We can divide the 4 and 2. 4 and 2 is just 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and then times pi. So here's my constant proportionality. And let's see if that's true. So you can always confirm, right? And you can come back here and say, hey, if I take 0.5 and multiply by 2 pi, do I get pi? If I multiply 2 times 2 pi, do I get 4 pi? If I multiply 3 times 2 pi, do I get 6 pi? The answer is yes, yes, and yes. Okay, so the trick here, not trick, but I guess what you should do is take these points, these values, these ordered pairs, and put it on one table, and then find the constant proportionality. Okay. So far, so good. This, I guess everybody loves these. All right, so let me divide this. I'm taking my dog for a walk. This part here, the straight line, so that's, you don't have to think, it's 100, right? And this part over here at the bottom is also 100. So this shape is made up of 2 straight lines plus another straight line, right? The straight line here, and right on top, the straight edge, the straight line, another straight line, right? And each of them is worth 100, so it's 100 plus 100. And then I have this section over here, which is a half a circle, so I'll write that, and then another half a circle. So plus half a circle, plus another half a circle, and then I'll write on the right hand side plus half a circle, and then plus another half a circle. Now, if you think about it, a half a circle combined with the other half a circle gives me a full circle, but I'm going to leave it as a half circle. So I need to find out how much is a half a circle. So let me draw that circle out to the side. This was the 2 circles, the 2 halves combined, and I draw a line in the middle like this. That would be 64, and that would represent the diameter. So I have a circle, so imagine these two red parts, right? Let me just change it to red. So this red, right, that half, put the other half, put them together, make a circle. You're given that this line right here is the radius, so we know that this line, sorry, the line in the middle is the diameter. And now we have everything we need to find the circumference. So circumference equals pi times diameter. Circumference equals pi times 64. And the circumference is 64 pi. Right? So you can already say that those two halves equal 65, 64 pi, or if you take 64 pi and multiply by half, you get that each half is 32 pi. So this, right, this half is 32 pi, and this other half is 32 pi. So let me go to the circle here and say that, hey, this is 32 pi. 32 pi meters, and this is 32 pi meters. So going back to my equation at the bottom, I get that it's 100 plus 100, those two straight parts of our walk, plus 64 pi, plus, sorry, not plus 64 pi, plus 32 pi, plus another 32 pi. If you wanted to write 64 pi right off the bat, even better. So let's add these two together. 100 plus 100 is 200. Plus 32 and 32 is 64 pi, right, which we found over here. Right, the full circumference of this circle is 64 pi. You can leave your answer like this, or depending on what they ask you, you can say, well, I actually want the, I don't want to leave it with pi. So you can take 200 plus, and let's take a moment here and multiply 64 times pi, and we get 201.06, so approximately 201.06. So if I add everything together, I get 401.06, right? And then dot dot dot, because the decimal goes on forever. So personally, you know, you want the better answer, right? It would be this one, 200 plus 64 pi. All right, this one, let's do the easy part. So there's a straight line here, which is 4, another one that's 4, another one that's 4, and another one that's 4. So this shape is made up of 4, and we'll write it like this. A straight line plus another straight line plus another straight line plus another straight line, right? Which represents those. And each of them is 4. So it's 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. Now we got to do the curves, right? These, and I hope you can see it, that this is a quarter of a circle. And let me write up here, quarter of a circumference of a circle. Quarter of a circle. And I'm not going to write circumference because I'm being late. So that's a quarter. And there's another quarter. And there's another quarter. And there's another quarter. So if I put them all together, so here's a quarter of a circle. Let me take another quarter of a circle. Take another quarter of a circle, and take another quarter of a circle. So if I put all these 4 together, wouldn't they make a full circle? It would. And what else do I know? I know that this part here, and you can tell that, please, you can tell that this part right here, it's the radius. So if I drew a line like this, that would be 4. Which means if I continue that line to the other side to the other edge of the circle, right, the diameter would be 8. So 4 is the radius, and the diameter is 8. So now you can use either way, either formula, C equals, so you can use this, or you can use this, either or, okay? So let's find the circumference. So C equals pi, and the diameter is 8. So C equals 8 pi. So if you know that all those 4 quarter circles make up a full circle, you can say it's all the straight lines, right, the red parts, all the straight line plus a full circle, because the blue ones make a full circle, and the full circle is 8 pi, and you didn't have to break them up. So what's my final answer? Well, it would be 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, which is 16, please don't, and then plus 8 pi. We're going to leave our answer like this, and sorry, meters. Okay, please do not add 16 and 8. You cannot. You're not allowed because they're not like terms. Okay, so that's your answer, period. All right, and then unless, of course, they say, hey, but you know what, give me the actual numerical value. Then you leave a 16, take your calculator, multiply 8 times pi, and you're going to get approximately 25.13. Right, and then final answer would be 41.13 approximately. It's not equal. All right, so you got two answers. One when you leave pi alone, and the other one where you actually multiply 8 times pi, and then that product you add to 16. Okay. All right, so it's pretty straightforward. No tricks. Last two questions. Find the circumference. Here's an airplane wheel. Draw it out. Here's an airplane wheel. Has a radius of 24. R equals 24. So take a diameter, any diameter, right, as long as it goes from one edge of the circle to the edge, going through the middle, and write D equals, well, if the radius is 24, the diameter is 48. So now I can come up and use this formula. Circumference is what I'm trying to find, so leave it alone. Pi times the diameter, which is 48. So what's the circumference of this circle? 48 pi inches. Okay, we're going to use this information, put it over here. Okay. So the circumference of this circle is 48 pi inches. So if this wheel, right, if you took a walk around that wheel, C would be 48 pi. Okay. Or just for you to think about it, okay, 48 times pi would be 150.80 inches. All right. So if your tire, if this airplane tire rotated once, okay, rotated once, it would travel 150.80 inches, or 48 pi. These two mean exactly, well, not exactly, but mean the same thing, because this is rounded. All right, so I can come here to the table and I can now write that, hey, if this wheel rotates one time, it's going to travel 48 pi. Notice that, ladies and gentlemen, this is the unit rate, so let me write, this is the unit rate. Right, and I can use that to find, for example, 15, because there's a question here at the bottom. What if the wheel rotates 15 times? What's the distance going to travel? Well, how does a 1 become 48 pi? It's times 48 pi, right? Let's see if it's true for the second one. 8 times 48 pi is 384, so multiply 48 times 8, and guess what? You get 384 pi. What about 10? 10 times 48 pi, is it 480 pi? It's true, right? So, and then 15 also times 48 pi. So 15 times 48 pi is equal to 720 pi. What's our unit rate, or what's my constant proportionality? Here's my constant proportionality. K equals 48 pi. Okay. Same question. A car wheel has 15 inches of radius, so draw the car wheel. Right, R equals 15. If you know the radius, you know the diameter. What's the diameter? The diameter would be twice the radius, which is 30. Circumference is what I need to know. So circumference equals pi times diameter. Circumference equals pi times 30, or circumference equals 30 pi. What does that mean? Well, it means that if this car wheel rotates one time, it will travel 30 pi inches. I know. What does that mean? Well, take 30, just so that you have an idea. Take 30, multiply that by pi, and you're going to get 94.25 inches, rounded. Okay? So if this tire rotates one it travels this distance, 94.25 inches, or with pi, that means that it travels 30 inches. Go back to your table and go to the rotations of the wheel. The wheel is when it rotates one time. So when that wheel of your car travels once, how much does it travel? It travels 30 pi. And because that's our unit rate, right, we know that the constant proportionality is going to be times 30 pi. This is times 30 pi times 30 pi. Let's see if it works. 5 times 30 pi is 150 pi. 9 times 30 pi is 270 pi. Check. And then they are asking us, what if the wheel rotates 20 pi? Well, that's easy. Times 30 pi. And then 20 times 30 is 600 pi. So what's the constant proportionality? Our k is 30 pi. That is it. Really, that's it. I promise you that you're not getting any surprises. Okay? So that's it.